Hey, the restaurant pros, it's David Scott Peters, and welcome to the Restaurant Prosperity Formula podcast. For over 2 decades, I've been guiding restaurant owners to success with the proven principles of something I call the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. I originally created the formula based on the daily practices of the most successful restaurateurs I coached, and it's now the foundation of what I teach restaurant owners like you so you can achieve success. What do I mean by success? Success is a restaurant owner who dictates the terms of their life and their bank account instead of their restaurants dictating those things for them. Success is a restaurant owner who has freedom from their restaurant and the financial freedom they never thought possible. How you define success is up to you, but I do know the way to achieving it is using the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. This season, I'm diving even deeper into the core elements of the formula: leadership, systems, training, accountability, and taking action. Along with my insights, you'll hear from special guests, industry experts, and inspiring success stories from fellow restaurant owners who've turned their businesses around and found their definition of success. In this episode, number 128, our guest is Ian McCall. Ian is the founder and owner of Ism Brewing in Long Beach, California. Opened in late 2003, Ism Brewing quickly gained national attention, winning multiple World Beer Cup and Great American Beer Festival medals in short order. With 2 decades of brewing experience under his belt, Ian now operates a brew pub with a full kitchen while overseeing brewing and distribution operations. The team at Ism is composed of experienced hospitality veterans who are passionate about friends, family, fresh beer. In this episode, Ian shares his journey from his life as strictly a brewer to the addition of restaurant owner and entrepreneur. Listen in as he talks about his challenges from kitchen operations to labor controls to now in control of his restaurant, brewery, and life. Ian's story is truly inspirational. Let's get started, but first, a word from our sponsor. If you run an independent restaurant and you're still tossing money at random social media posts hoping something sticks, stop. My friend Matt Plapp and his team at America's Best Restaurants have cracked the code. Their programs don't just get you likes, they drive actual sales. Whether you need new customers, want to win back lost ones, or just get your regulars to spend more, ABR's got a proven system for it. No fluff, just butts and seats. If you're ready to stop guessing and start growing, book a meeting now at business.americasbestrestaurants.com. No BS, just results. Ian, I want to thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Thank you, David.
Dude, I want to kind of set the stage. You are somebody who has truly exemplifies taking action, right? The Restaurant Prosperity Formula talks about leadership. You've become the leader your restaurant needs. Talks about systems. You've embraced all the systems. You talked about, learning and training, and you do all of that and share with others. Talk about holding people accountable. Accountability is critical. You do that. But the biggest thing is, man, you do not sit still. When we first met, you literally told me, I will do this work. And I'm like, knowing what I knew in our discovery call, that you had some major challenges going on. I'm like, man, are you sure? Like, based on where your volumes were at the time, based on your headaches at the time, based on you being the only one to pretty much get it all done, I was more than skeptical. But you looked me in the eye and said, gosh darn it, I'm going to get this shit done. And you really did. And it's been really, really impressive. So much to a point where later on we'll talk about how you got invited to the Mastery Plus group and what that was like for you. Those are my top contenders. These are the people that you sat around a room, like they get shit done and they truly want to make a difference in their life. So tell me a little bit about, before we met, what was going on in your life and your business? Like, it wasn't going so easy. You've have a long experience in the industry, but not as a restaurant owner. Why don't you talk a little bit about your history, how you got to where you are, the name of your restaurant, a little bit about it, and again, more of where your challenges were.
Thanks, Dave. So yeah, I've been brewing beer for 20 years. I mean, I started brewing beer back in 2004 in a real small brew on premise. We were making beer in 15-gallon batches. It was a blast. I loved it. I got a chance to actually teach my now wife how to make beer back in 2008. From there, I went to a brew pub and got my first job as a professional brewer. I stayed at that brew pub for about 8 years, about 7.5, 8 years. Left that brew pub and went to another job. Took a gig as a head brewer, and which ultimately turned into director of operations for another brewery. In 2023, I got the opportunity to buy the original brew pub that I worked in here in downtown Long Beach. We opened up. It's called ISM Brewing, ISM Brewing. My name, Ian Scott McCall. We share a middle name. And so it's a labor of love. I love brewing. Stayed in this industry because I have a passion for it, a drive for it. I love brewing craft beer and being able to enjoy it with my friends in our community. But what I didn't know was all the restaurant stuff, you know? And that's been a big struggle for me. Just rewind back a little bit more. When I came in here, I was super stoked. I got a chance to bring on one of my former coworkers. His name is Gene Wagoner. He's our head brewer, phenomenal brewer. We got a great brew staff and brew team. Over this last year and a half, the brewery has just been cranking. We've won now 5 World Beer Cup awards in a year and a half.
That's amazing.
And 1 Great American Beer Festival award, on top of a few other smattering of local awards. But the brewery itself has this great following that we've garnered so quickly. I never envisioned myself going into becoming a restaurateur. It wasn't on my vision map, so to say. I had no clue. But as I started interviewing pop-ups who were in the brewery, in this brew pub before me, I would ask them, do you have any vegan options? Do you have any vegetarian options? The community wants more than just a smash burger and fries. And they'd eventually all say, well, you tell me what you want me to do, and I will write a recipe for that. And I'm like, I don't want to tell you how to run your business. I want you to come up with something creative that's true to who you are and show that to the community. But I just didn't get that vibe, that feeling. So I called a few restaurant buddies of mine, called a meat purveyor friend of mine, and he actually introduced me to my first chef. And things were going. We got our doors open. The food was great. I have no qualms about the food. The food was awesome. We kind of ran this Mexican, Baja, California style food, tacos, salads, a few really cool sandwiches. But it wasn't long after we got, maybe 5-6 months, when the money that was in our bank account, that was our extra capital, started to wear down or wear thin. And that was when I started to kind of go, oh man, something's not firing, and I got to figure out what it is.
So food costs was high, labor costs was high, but you had happy customers. You felt really good about where the direction of the company was going, but you realized in some respects, 5-star Yelp reviews don't pay the bills, right? It's that holy shit. This is real money sitting on my shelves. This is a lot of people standing around and not doing. So talk a little bit about, let's start with the menu. What was your food cost running? Like, do you remember that initially when we first met, kind of like where you were?
We were high. I remember our prime cost when we first met was 83%.
Yeah.
And that's just food and labor.
Yeah.
And then we talked about our rent and our occupancy cost here. And our occupancy cost was an additional 20%, basically.
Yeah. So
just amongst those 3 things, rent, food, and labor, that was all of our money.
Yeah.
And that was before I spent, the $5,000, $10,000 a month on the brewery.
Right.
And we can talk about that later too, because there's 2 different cash flow models that we're operating within. And that puts a huge stress on my bank account. But that's, it's separately related, separate from that. It's just learning to dial down on those food costs has been a huge game changer. And when we started, to your question, we were probably running 45, 50 if we're lucky,
right,
in terms of food costs and cost of goods.
Right. And if I remember correctly, the food sales were a small percentage of your sales because you truly were a brewery, a brew pub. It was what people came for. And there was this food component. But your labor in the kitchen was so much higher than front of house.
Mhm.
Yet it was doing 25% of the sales, maybe just a little bit more than that. It was sucking you dry. At the same time, you had a chef in there who, again, made pretty food taste good, but didn't have an acumen for profitability, didn't have recipe cards, didn't have systems in place, had lots of people standing around. Would that be an accurate statement? Am I blowing that out of proportion?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't require or ask him for recipe cards when we opened because I didn't quite realize I needed that. We had recipe cards for the brewery.
Yeah,
I tracked my brews. We knew exactly what was going into them. We even had cost of goods for the brewery, but I didn't even know where to start in the restaurant. By the time that we got maybe 6 months down the road, and I started listening to a few of your podcasts, I was asking him for recipe cards, and what I got was a smattering of, Excel spreadsheets and Google Sheets that I think were a decent representation of what was actually going on, but I had no way of controlling, of adjusting those if the cost of goods went up or down.
right.
Right. When our meat goes up or salmon skyrockets or eggs go up or down.
So let's talk a little bit. At the same time, labor's out of control. At an 82% prime cost, 20% occupancy cost, you are at a deficit 2 pennies for every dollar that comes in. It's almost as if everybody walked in the door. You said, "Oh, you want to spend how much money? Let me give you, here's 2 pennies, 2 pennies, 2 pennies, 2 pennies." And so the labor of love was literally that, a labor of love. It was depleting your money. It didn't mean you weren't a good operator. You, again, had great reviews. You had a community embrace you. Your beer was winning awards. There was sales were building. Lots of positive things were coming, but it was a little bit out of control. Talk a little bit about how that affected you as a leader. Like, how did it make you feel when you started to look at this and go, I've got all these accolades, I've got all this success, but holy shit, paying my bills is a tough thing to do.
The hardest thing, and still to this day, I get people who come up and slap me on the back and say, "Gosh, you're crushing. You're doing so great. It's so amazing to see." And I say thank you, obviously, but in the back of my mind, I think, if you only knew.
Yeah.
And who knows is all the people who are in your group. We all know. But it's there's a separation there between what people see out front and what's actually going on in the back.
Right.
And it not only does it begin to instill a sense of kind of it's not fear so much. It's insecurity. It's confidence. It really affects my confidence. My just the way I was feeling. I was down on myself. I felt like I was failing, but I got into this and I didn't have a plan to succeed.
That brings up two things. Number one, I think lots of people listening to us right now as restaurant owners understand what it is to have a successful business, but yet, dare I say, feel like a failure because we're not making money. Like, we do restaurant right, hospitality, right? We give a great product, great service. We have accolades out the ass. And you go, but wait a second, why? I'm working my ass off. Like, you were in that building basically 24/7. You were doing everything. Yep. You were going home and doing more work. You were doing all the things that you had to make sure the business worked. Yet you weren't seeing the rewards. You had no freedom. You didn't have the financial accolades to go along with the awards and all the reviews. The second piece is you said, I didn't have a plan for success. Let's talk a little bit about what you did before, and I'm going to lead us to a budget, which was really the game changer for you.
Yeah,
right. So what did you try before you and I started working together? Like, whether it was listening to my podcast, did you read books? Did you bring in a consultant? What did you do?
So, yeah, I mean, as soon as I kind of started to see the downhill, we were trending downhill fast, not business wise, but, bank account wise.
Right.
And there were times that I'd go back to my partner, who's my wife and my sister-in-law, and I'd say, hey, I'm 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 short. I've got to make payroll. We'd get that flush of cash, and I'd say, I think we'll figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to. And next month it was the same shit all over again. I started by looking for books. I looked at not only leadership books but kitchen books. I listened to audiobooks as I was driving to and from work, looking for little gems that I could pull. I started listening to podcasts whatever I could get my hands on or my ears on. And that was shortly thereafter I found you. I think I consumed, I don't know, you have hundreds of podcasts out now. I want to say I consumed 75% of them just back to back to back to back to back as quickly as I could to kind of start to wrap my brain around the way I needed to adjust my mind to think about being a restaurant owner.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was a huge jump from brewery operator. The jump from brewery operator to brewery owner isn't that big. It's the jump from brewery operator to restaurant owner that was it was very significant for me.
It is tough. I think you and I have talked about it. Anybody who's listened to me for any length of time knows that when I was a restaurant manager, I thought I was God's gift to the restaurant industry. Like there was nothing I could not frickin' do. The moment I became an owner of a business, I became the black hole of death. It is very different for those of us who've come up in the restaurant world to then become the owner and go, oh shit, I don't have to just worry about my little cube of information. I've got to worry about government regulations. I've got to worry about sales. I've got to worry about human resources. I've got to worry about marketing. Oh, I've got to be a procurement specialist. Oh, I've got to be a labor expert. I've got to be an HR. Like all of a sudden, like it becomes overwhelming. And you're in the state of California, which makes it even harder because, run a restaurant, break the law. I mean, it's almost impossible not to break a labor law. Like sneeze, oh, we're gonna sue you. So, it's not it's a tough place to do business. But with that said, you sit there and say, hey, I've got all the drive and all the desire to be great. What was missing was the knowledge, right? We often talk about what's the biggest thing that stops most of us from doing anything? It's fear. And what's the thing that fixes that? Knowledge. It's uncomfortable to learn. It's uncomfortable to put in place. But man, once it becomes yours, it really becomes empowering. And so I want people to understand, we're talking now basically damn near 365 days from the day you started. Like we are within weeks or days of your 1 year anniversary of being in the program. Talk a little bit about what that decision was a year ago to make the leap, to join a group coaching program, to be a part of what you learned in our system. What went through your mind?
I mean, again, to reiterate, after I think I had my first call either with you or with Mary, and just to kind of run through the basics to even figure out if we could work together.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the money. I had to make payroll. I didn't have the money to do this, but I knew that without a coach, without somebody who could train me on the stuff that I didn't know, and more importantly, the stuff I didn't know, there was no way. I mean, we would have closed our doors within the first year, and I would have been another brewery that has failed. Not because we didn't make good beer, not because we didn't have great people and a great community, but because I didn't have the knowledge, and I didn't have people around me who had the knowledge at that point in time,
right?
To get over that first hump. And I heard it said all the time still, when I open up about our issues and our problems, I hear people outside the food industry, outside the beer industry tell me, oh, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. All businesses have a hard time their first 3 years. You won't even see a profit till year 5. And for me, it's impossible.
Right.
Like my wife and I and my sister-in-law, the three of us are financing this thing ourselves, and that's not an option.
Well, you've made incredible change. Like, again, from where you were a year ago to where you are today, the future is bright. Dare I say, there is nothing but optimism. Like you have nailed the systems. What we're trying to do is fix some of the past ills that are still affecting you today. With that said, what were some of the first changes you made? Because again, I'm putting you up there with some of my top members, period. The changes you've made in 1 year and you, by God, said you were going to do it and you did it. What were some of the first things you put in place that you saw changes? And then I want to get to budget, because I think that was the springboard. Maybe that is the thing that changed everything. But
what comes to mind for me is, and I think I mentioned this to you in Las Vegas, is the first time I listened to Chef Means Manager. And for me, that was eye-opening. I got goosebumps thinking about it right now because it was eye-opening. It changed the way I dealt with my chef at the time. It changed the way that I oversaw the kitchen, and the way that I took control over that situation. Because I no longer let him dictate what was going to happen in the kitchen. I looked to him for the answers, and I knew very quickly that the answers that I was looking for were not anywhere to be found. And so by changing my mindset that way, started us down this path, which obviously led into budget. I mean, that was, budget was huge. It was another eye-opening moment for me where I saw what the future could hold if I didn't make significant change. And it's never easy. Those changes aren't easy to make. No. I mean, whether it's implementing food costing software, we just changed over our POS. I mean, all the changes that we make as a business are not easy changes. And the worst ones of all are having to make personnel changes. They hurt. The time put into Margin Edge or put into a POS changeover, it's just time.
Right.
But the personnel changes, they hurt. They're personal.
Well, I can remember we got the budget going, and we could attribute, again, to your kitchen professional, losses beyond compare. Like, not even, hey, we're just a few points off. Like, just could make or break your business. And there was a point where there was some willingness to learn and do, but we were far past. We were paying a premium for this person, yeah. And your restaurant did not need a chef. You needed a kitchen manager. You were bleeding both food and labor cost, which was the smallest portion of your sales. You take the brewery, you take the tap room, like it was the tiny, and it was the biggest expense you had. And I remember having the discussion with you, no matter how much you love this guy and whether it was your fault or not, you could not afford to have him. And that was difficult for you. In fact, I think it took you about a week or 2 weeks to actually get the stones up to say, I have to make this decision. Talk about what that's like, because you liked the guy and he worked. Absolutely. He worked hard for you, and he wasn't a bad person.
No, not at all. Not at all. He made great food, and he had a great team. I mean, really, like, he brought in people who worked hard. The fact that we had too many of them, I'll even wear that. I'm happy to wear that. I should have said, no, we can't afford that. We shouldn't do it. I'm guilty of allowing him to step on top of me and help make decisions that I wasn't aware were ultimately going to be detrimental to the health of my business. I wanted our kitchen or our front of house to have a dishwasher, so that way they didn't have to wash dishes. I wanted the line to be fully staffed, so that way when we got hit on a Friday or Saturday afternoon or evening, we could handle it, but it really was tearing me down every single day.
Yeah.
We went from a fully staffed kitchen at that point with probably 9 or 10 people, to now we rock a kitchen. Currently we have 4. We'll have 5 by the end of the week.
You basically, the staff is in half. You had, and I'll speed us up a little bit. You had a second in command in the restaurant, in the kitchen, who stepped up and is freaking crushing it. You have a general manager, an implementer in Andrew, who loved the education side, loved your business already, loved you already, has been kicking ass, making changes as helping you lead that business. Like, There's been nothing but huge changes in your business. Talk about the culture change. We talk about the numbers, we talk about the systems, but culturally, you've got a team that would do anything for you and knew and still know the hardships you're going through and what the future looks like.
Yeah, I really am. I'm the luckiest bastard in Long Beach. I have a great team. Now, I mentioned it earlier. I've got a phenomenal brewing team. To your point, I got 3 guys in that brewery who make a beautiful liquid product that results in 75% of our revenue. Yeah. It's amazing. My front of house team is always on point, kicks ass. Hospitality, service, they're doing their absolute best every single day to provide our community with great service, great hospitality. Our kitchen team steps up time and time and time again to cover when somebody's sick, somebody's out, somebody's mom is hurt or injured or hospitalized or whatever it is. I mean, it's phenomenal to see. And all of this while supporting me, not only in running the business, but taking our brand across the country. I mean, since I've known you, I've probably been in Portland 3-4 times. I've been in the Northern California 3-4 times. I leave for Georgia next week for an IPA festival. So my staff sees it. They support it. They see the vision. They see where we're at now, where we're going. And they're in their heads. Their heads aren't too big about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I try my absolute damnedest to be transparent with my staff on all levels. You want to see my P&L? I'll show you my P&L. There's nothing to hide.
Yep.
There's no money going into an offshore bank account that I'm pulling out of this business and paying you what I pay you. I want to pay them more. I wish we were 2-3 times as successful and everybody could get paid more than what they're worth. It's just not where we're at right now. And I've found over the last year that transparency, that the honesty helps to build the bond amongst our staff and between ownership and staff as well.
Well, you can see it. You in the budgetary process, you learned the tough decisions to make. You learned that you had already built a great culture because those who wanted to step up, wanted to be a part and help you because you were transparent, did. The new people came on, buy into your vision. And that is translated to you not having to be there all the time. The fact that you are doing all of these different things, whether it's competitions or getting together, and what do you guys call it when you're doing something together? Collaborations. Thank you. Collaborations with other breweries. You are competing. Like, you don't have to be in the restaurant 24/7, and you're not. You are moving on and doing things to grow your brand. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you are seeing an increase in sales. I think week after week after week, you start to talk about, we had a record weekend. We had a record week. Yep. So sales are going up. Your service is going up. You're adding more service to your restaurant because you're getting busier. You are truly, like, you have turned the corner. We've got some old sins that we're still dealing with, but you've turned the corner. It is a profitable business. It is a great business. It is one that does not rely on you having to be there all the time. On the financial side, let's talk about prime costs. You said you started at 82.
83, yeah.
83. Where's prime cost today?
Prime cost today is right around 55%. 55, 56.
And you're in California, and your kitchen is still probably your largest labor portion of the business. Like, how does that feel to sit there and go from 83 to 55? And because a lot of people don't believe it's possible, and especially not in California. Yet you, with a budget, were empowered to go, I have to make these decisions. And this is what I'm going to put in place, how quickly. And you moved a little faster than most because you had to make the change. What does that feel like to be able to take that kind of control of your business?
For me, it's knowing the numbers. It's being confident in the numbers, right? If you would have asked me a year ago, I wouldn't have told you I'm a numbers guy. I really wouldn't have. I sit down at a computer and rock spreadsheets for a few hours a day. It was not my forte. It's not what I wanted to do. still to this day, I'll tell you, I want to be back on that brew deck.
Yeah.
So I want my business to be running so well that if I want to brew tomorrow, I get to brew tomorrow.
Yep.
And not have to worry about invoicing and cost of goods and running spreadsheets. But it's confidence. I sat down with a local restaurant owner yesterday, and I was talking about margin edge, and I was talking about food costs and recipe development and how we're altering and changing our menus going forward.
Yep. And
when I told her that nothing is leaving our kitchen right now above a 22 at the max % food cost, ideally 20 or lower, her jaw hit the floor. She said, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you can make the food you make at that food cost. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I explained to her that, the reason why I do that is because we're going to assume a 2 to 3 point, loss, theft loss or waste percentage. And that'll put us up at 25.
Yeah.
I want to stay at 25 or below. That's my ultimate goal, rather than going industry average at 30. And so, when I tell the kitchen, and I want the kitchen to come up with new ideas all the time, come up with a new idea. Let's spin it out there. Let's play with it. But pretty early in the process, sit down with Bobby, our kitchen manager, and let's write down a recipe. Let's figure out, because if the food cost is going to run us at 31, 32%, game over. We're not even going to entertain that idea. We're going to move on from that. And it's been empowering, not only for me, but for the kitchen as well.
And lower food cost does not mean buying shitty product. It does not mean gouging your guest. It does not mean you're not putting out a fantastic product. People seem to think that in their brain, but it's all the self-inflicting wounds we do in our restaurants when we don't have systems in place. We don't track waste. We don't make sure we prevent theft on a daily basis. We don't take inventories. We don't have recipe cards. We don't look at menu analysis. We don't have checklists. Like, most operators are blowing 7-9 plus points in food costs because they're just not managing the damn thing.
For sure. It makes total sense. I mean, the waste tracker is a huge one for us. Just tracking waste every day and having our cooks, whether they're thinking about it or not, I promise you, they don't want to write on that waste log what they wasted that day.
No, they don't.
If it was dropped or if they don't want to write that. And so that helps to control that as well.
Talk to me a little bit about what the process has been like and what it's providing you today, meaning the process of learning, because it's really what you've done. I didn't do the work. Like, you've done all the work. You get all the accolades. I will brag about you. I'm putting you on the top shelf of operators. I really am, because you frickin' crushed it. But you had to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You had to decide you were going to learn. You had to decide you were going to do the frickin' work. And in fact, you did the work sometimes 2-3 times. You went backwards, relearned it, redid it, backwards, relearned it, redid it. Like, there was no quitting you. What's that experience like?
Yeah, it was fast. It was the length of a marathon, but I was sprinting the entire time.
Yeah.
That first 3 months was go, go, go. As soon as I started diving into your programs and getting through the individual modules, another question would come up and I'd go, oh, how's this? I got to figure out how this connects to this. And then I would hit up Mary and I'd ask her for access to a module ahead of me. And I just kept jumping around, and I just took off running, and I had to watch a bunch of the modules to help my brain kind of wrap around how everything was interconnected. And so that's what happened with me. Is when I dove in, I dove into the deep end. And then as I surfaced and I wanted to teach Andrew, our implementer, and our general manager, how to start to implement and utilize these spreadsheets and these systems, then I went back and watched it a second time and a third time to make sure that we were really dialing them in.
You also came to the seminar. What the hell possessed you? Like a lot of people sit there and go, well, if I go to your coaching program, why the hell would I go to your 2-day seminar and learn the same damn systems? Why did you go to the seminar and what was that like?
Well, in all honesty, I mean, I was bought in, right? I was 110% in. I knew that without, whether it was DSP or it was another coach or whoever it was, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I needed somebody that I could believe in, who was going to help get me to that next level. And so I was looking for somebody. I found you, luckily. But sharing my belief with Andrew, who is a good friend of mine, but also my general manager and now implementer, that's the hard part. Taking him to the seminar allowed him to learn to believe in you and believe in the systems without me just telling him, hey, this is the deal.
Yeah.
And believe me, as soon as I can get Bobby there, Bobby's coming. And then we're going to kind of work through the team and we're just going to get everybody out there.
It's awesome. We liken that. We call it drinking the Kool-Aid, not the Kool-Aid that kills you, not in Jonestown, but gets you to buy in and believe.
That's what it is.
Was there anything unexpected, a change that came about going through the program that you knew you wanted financial and you knew you wanted some leadership stuff, but was there anything that you went, holy shit, where'd that come from?
You know, I think one of the coolest things about the DSP, we'll call it the environment, is that there are so many other great restaurant operators who are a part of it, who are involved. And being able to ask any question at any point in time, whether it's about food costs or labor or even local jurisdictions and ordinances. You know, I've got 3, 4, 5 different text threads with bar managers and accounts and local restaurant owners here in Southern California. But getting the input from restaurant owners from all around the country and the world was huge for me. And it still is to this day.
So community is part of that. It's not being, I'm not the only one with the answers. And I often tell people, I've learned so much from you guys as operators. Like you bring things to a group coaching call that helps somebody and they bring something because you've all walked in each other's shoes for the first time in your life. Instead of having the restaurant next door who you love and you trade shit together, you buy each other's beers, you still look at each other and hope you die because you're taking my lunch business, right? We're never going to share. This group shares. They'll give you anything and everything. And in fact, the time of you and I talking about this last week, we invited you to our Mastery Plus group, which is my mastermind group of the top operators. And because I wanted you to be a part of that, talk a little bit about what that was like, because I think of that as a group coaching call on steroids. Like, what is it like to be in a room of 20 plus restaurant operators who have already accomplished a lot, who are working on the bigger issues? What was that like?
I had such a great time. I wish that Bobby could have come with me. I wish Andrew could have come with me. I wish my entire staff could have come. It was inspiring. I mean, it really is. That's such a great group of people. The conversation was fun, but also fun and unique, but also very productive. Everybody who was out there in Master Plus is there to make a difference, not only for themselves and their family, but within their business.
Yep.
And beyond that, they are people who have made a difference, who have shown that they can take it to the next level. And so the opportunity to be a part of that group, I'm flattered, honored, and I can't wait.
Well, you belong. You belong. And like I said, after you and I, before we got on this, on recording this, was the group welcoming arms. You belong in that, again, because you're somebody who gets shit done and willing to share and all the things that match our core values. What's your life like today? What's your business like today?
It's still challenging. I don't think it's ever going to change. It's not going to stop being challenging. The brand today is stronger than ever. Like I said, I get to take my son to Georgia next weekend for an IPA festival. It's insane. But being able to do that while I know that the brewery and the restaurant and everything is under control. My kitchen manager has the kitchen under control. My general manager has the front of house, and my brewer, obviously, the brewery. I mean, there's still things that I do on a day-to-day basis that I need to do.
Yeah.
I still handle all the distribution logistics for the brewery. Obviously, all the administrative stuff and the HR and the payroll and everything else. But I can do most of that from anywhere I want. You know, I got to see both of my kids this morning. They both finished up 2nd and 5th grade. So
Congrats.
got to go watch them cross the bridge. You know, that's the stuff that really matters. It's the soccer games, the baseball games, the cheer competitions and the gymnastic competitions and everything else that my crazy kids are involved in. I want to continue to grow Ism Brewing. I want Ism Brewing to be around for a long time, but I also don't want to miss out on family while doing that.
And it's easy too. And, you know, we talk about in the program, restaurant prosperity is freedom of your restaurant and the financial freedom you deserve. But that personal freedom, you don't get a second chance for the firsts. You don't get, you know, you miss your grandparents' 80th birthday. You miss your wife and yours 25th anniversary because the restaurant sucked you in. You missed your kids' 5, baseball or basketball games, and, you know, it was for state championship and all this. You can't get those things back. So it's so important that when we envisioned us being entrepreneurs and to have a restaurant and the brewery and things like that, you envisioned freedom. You didn't envision, holy shit, I have to be here all the time. And so it's so gratifying for me to see you actually make that change and live your life. Again, like you said, it's the restaurant business. There's always going to be challenges, but I believe you now have the confidence and the community to take on any challenge. There's not anything you couldn't fix, period.
I 100% agree. I really do. And it's not just me blowing smoke. Like, no matter what comes my way, I know now where to go to get answers. I have friends and family who can help me overcome anything.
That's awesome. Let me ask you a question. If somebody was listening to us and they're circling, because there's so much out there on the internet, like, you know that if you get my stratosphere, I'm going to pollute your Instagram and Facebook feed. You are going to see my ass every time you're in there. But there are other coaches and there are other programs. There's other things vying for your time, your attention, your efforts. What would you tell somebody who is kind of thinking about, maybe I should get on a discovery call and learn about the David's program?
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna hawk your program all day long, every day, and I'll get back to that. What I would say though is, if you are at a point where you are thinking about jumping into a program, find one and jump. Like, whether it's DSP or something else,
Agreed.
Get the coaching that you need, that you feel you need. Whether it's restaurant coaching or marketing coaching or life coaching, leadership coaching. Find a coach and jump in. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah.
And that goes in all parts of life. However, I will say that what I got with DSP and what I got with you, or RTI and you, is way more than I was prepared for. It really was. You know, I think I told Ryan on our intro call, like, I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna get everything done in 3 months. And then I'm good. I'm just going to cut it off and stop the financial bleeding, and I'll run with it. And I remember him telling me, well, you're not going to, after 3 months, you're going to want to stick around. You're just going to want to keep learning more and more. And I was pretty close to getting through the majority of the modules at 3 months. There's still stuff that I'm still working on and learning every single day.
Yeah.
But I was pretty darn close. But what I've learned since I stopped, or since that 3 months was over, what I learned before that pales into comparison to what I learned afterwards. Because I think when I was head down, nose to the grindstone, working my ass off to get through these systems like they were homework.
Right.
Like I had a final exam on the line. I had to get through this. But what I've realized since is it's not about It's not about just learning the information if you can't put it in practice, if you can't put it in play and have a coach who can support you in making sure that it's right. Because we just changed over POS systems. I'll mention that again. And it threw our DSR off. Like, I gave the DSR to our shift leaders months ago. And aside from looking at it 3 to 4 times a week and assuming it's correct because everything lines up correctly, I didn't have to think about it. But now, every single day, we're going in there and we're double and triple checking to make sure the numbers that we're receiving from the POS every night are correct. And so, that's the point of it. Is it's kind of this ever revolving cycle of learn it, teach it, train it, do it again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no finish line. I liken it. I talk to members all the time. I go, at no point in time where we're going to high five and go, whoo, we got it all done. Like, there's always something else. Like, you have, because you attack things with such ferocity, you got into labor systems most people don't see for 2 years. You were in dollars per labor hour worked on all 3 levels, from the 15-minute angle to the, just doing the down and dirty, what we call down and dirty dollars per labor hour work in the budget, to the tracking and making sure you're being efficient. Like, you can slice and dice more numbers, but you can't see them if you don't free yourself up from the day-to-day headaches. You cannot see the forest, right? The tree, the forest past the tree that's in front of you. And that's the crisis management most restaurants operate in. You are now in a position where you are leading your business. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And it's pretty damn impressive. I really appreciate you doing this with me today. Is there anything you wish we talked about? Do you have a favorite quote or book or something you want to share with people before we sign off?
I'll just kind of circle back on it really quick. One of the big challenges for me, and we talked about this, and you helped me work through my budget and split out class. Well, my accountant suggested I do class accounting. DSP and Steve was like, oh, I don't think so. I think we're good without it. But the reason I stuck with it is because there are 2 very distinct cash flow systems that operate here in the brew pub.
Yep.
And one is the standard brew pub model, which is the kitchen, cost of goods in, labor in, food out. And then the other is the brewing model and the distributing brewery model, because we distribute about 45 to 60% of our beer on any given month. And that's from San Diego to Northern California, Oregon, Arizona. Not Arizona yet. Las Vegas, Colorado. And so that cash flow model is so much longer. I mean, we're talking sometimes 3 months, sometimes 6 before we're seeing that money come back around from day one, when the money goes out for the cost of goods, for the grain, the hops, yeast. And so the disparity between those 2, again, was another challenge that we've overcome as a business, that I had to learn to overcome. And so, I think what I'm trying to get at is, if you're out there and you're a restaurant owner, or you own a brew pub, just like me, like, we're all having the same issues. Let's talk about them. Let's be transparent about them. Let's bring them to each other and work on them together. And I think that's one thing that I've gotten from DSP, your entire team, from the community, is the support to work through issues one at a time and really see it through to resolution. Or if not all the way to resolution, to know which direction I'm going in. I don't feel as scatterbrained as I once was.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
When you can have time to add clarity to your challenges and find solutions, it's so much easier to run a restaurant, a brew pub, than it is to just killing snakes. And I want to thank you so much for doing this with me. We who knows, we might do it again, but I know I'm going to see you in Vegas 3 times a year in the Mastery Plus group. Yep. I'm going to see you on group coaching calls. Know that I appreciate you, my friend, and I couldn't be any more proud of anybody in the changes that you've made in such a short time.
Thank you very much. It means the world to me.
Ready to take the next step towards achieving restaurant prosperity, freedom from the daily grind, and the financial success you deserve? Book a discovery call with Ryan James to learn about our group coaching program. Ryan will guide you through how our program can transform your restaurant and help you achieve the prosperity and freedom you've been striving for. Click the link in the description below or visit dsp.coach/talk-to-Ryan to schedule your call now.